Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and good afternoon to those out on the street who can hear this. I'm Attorney General Eric Schneiderman, and I'm very pleased to be here in your beautiful City Hall in the great city of Rochester, joined by your Mayor, Tom Richards, my friend, Council President Lovely Warren, Assemblyman Joe Morelle, Brett Garwood, who is the President of the Rochester Land Bank Corporation, and also Senator Ted O'Brien, Council members Carla Palumbo, Jackie Ortiz, Carolee Conklin, and Elaine Spall, Dana Miller, and Loretta Scott, I know, are also with us. I thank you for this great turnout, and it's not really surprising because I am here. I'm good? Okay. Because I'm here today really as a reflection of the incredible work that my colleagues in local government here in Rochester have done in paving the way for a program which we're rolling out as a result of settlements that my office has obtained from banks that were involved in creating the foreclosure crisis and the housing crisis. And we're using some of that money to give grants for land banks. And I have to say that the folks in Rochester have done an extraordinary job of setting up the infrastructure to make good use immediately of this funding. When I took office as Attorney General, New York was in the midst of a foreclosure crisis. The housing market had collapsed. People had lost billions of dollars in their home equity. There were 345,000 New Yorkers facing foreclosure in January 2011 when I took office. So I got involved very heavily in the efforts to deal with this, not just at the state level, but at the national level, and working with and sometimes working on my colleagues in the federal government, we eventually ended up with the President announcing the creation of an unprecedented joint federal-state task force, which he announced in the State of the Union address last year, which I co-chair along with people from the Justice Department, the Securities Exchange Commission, and there are other federal and state agencies involved. We obtained our first settlement from the 5 largest mortgage servicing banks, and in New York, we approached things a little bit differently. First of all, we started out by funding a network of housing, legal services, and counseling agencies, including right here in Rochester and in Monroe County, which we call our HOP network, Homeowner Protection Program Network. Because we had lawyers to help people and housing counselors to help people, New Yorkers got much more of the benefits of this settlement than pretty much any other state. HUD projected it when we announced Settlement 1 that New Yorkers would get about $600 million worth of write-downs of their principal of their loans or rate adjustments and other benefits. In the first year of the program, because we set up this network, New York homeowners, New York families got over $2 billion worth of principal reduction and other relief. And the reason is very simple. When I took office, it became clear to me that 50% of the people who were facing foreclosure never had a chance to talk to a lawyer at any stage of the process. So the first thing we did was make sure you don't have to walk into a bank alone when you're negotiating. And then we've been involved in other steps and other programs, and a few months back announced that we were going to be providing money on a competitive basis through a request for proposal process to local governments around the state. While we're dealing with every day trying to keep New Yorkers in their homes, we do have a lot of abandoned properties, and they are a problem not just for the family that had the trouble with that mortgage, but for all of the neighborhood, the communities. We know that Rochester has lost population over the last number of decades, I think down 34% from 50 years ago. But we think it is very much set for a resurgence because of the quality of the work the folks who stand here with me today have done. Dilapidated properties drive property values down all over the community. They can become magnets for crime. A 2011 study in Rochester found that being within 100 feet of a vacant property reduced your property value by almost $10,000. So this also erodes the tax base, and it's a problem that has to be dealt with a community-wide solution. The legislature in Albany passed a law in 2011 authorizing the creation of land banks. nonprofit organizations that can take over properties where they've defaulted on their taxes or they're vacant and abandoned. The problem was at that time, the state provided no money for the land banks. But we determined that it was a really good structure. It was a good idea. It just needed money. So we're now channeling money from the banks who created the housing crisis in the first place back into good groups like the Rochester Land Bank to see them help not just individual homeowners but whole communities by rehabbing houses, by tearing down dilapidated properties. And we have seen this work in other places around the country. Flint, Michigan is often cited as a model where they've taken over thousands of distressed properties. And we want to give the cities in New York the same chance to succeed. As I said, this is a competitive bidding process, and it is only the first round of funding. As you may have read, I am still wrestling, and my colleagues in my working group are still wrestling with other banks. We're hoping to get more money and to spend it on creative programs like this. But today we are awarding about $2.8 million to the Rochester Land Bank because of their excellent application and the program that they have already in place. We hope that this money, which together with other funds that they've raised, and some of my colleagues will probably talk about, that will enable them to hire more full-time staff, to acquire, rehabilitate, and resell distressed properties and redeposit the money into the land banks. There's a program called Home Rochester that really is what we're building on, and we believe that the land bank is going to enable the folks here to acquire properties at very low cost or even no cost to add to the ongoing programs. And we know that in Rochester you also have a green building component. So believe me, we've received applications from a lot of places. Not everyone got money in the first round. And I have to say that my colleagues here representing your city have done an extraordinary job. This money is not going to sit in the bank sitting around. They are ready to use it. They have programs underway. And it is an honor to be here with you. And keep in mind, this is the first round. I do have a feeling that there are some more banks who are just dying to give up some more money to help the people that were hurt by the housing crisis. And I assure you that every time there's a negotiation over that possibility, folks from my office, and often I'm personally at that table. So with that, I want to introduce your great mayor, Tom Richards, to speak. And again, all the folks here deserve the thanks of everyone in Rochester because they have a terrific system in place, and we are going to be able to build on it with this funding. I look forward to working with them. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Attorney General. We'll help those banks out with that money anytime that you need a little help there. We'll accommodate them. How's that? We'll accommodate them. One thing you should know about this particular presentation, it's not sort of typical of these presentations where, you know, we get grants that come out of the general revenues. This was revenues that were generated by a very aggressive position taken by our Attorney General to bring some justice to this recent mortgage crisis. And he has been a leader in that. It's not just a national program. He's prodded the national program to do better, and we're seeing some of the benefits of that here. So we're very much indebted to him for his approach to this whole thing for the funding that you see here today. The housing issues in Rochester are multifaceted. It takes a multifaceted approach to resolve them. We don't have the demand for all the housing we have. You've heard me talk about that before. But so we have too much housing in a gross sense, but we don't have enough good housing. And as we work our way through this balance over time, we have to make sure we do it in ways that we respect the neighborhoods that are impacted by it. So that the impact that comes out of this sort of change that's going on here in our demographics and our economics does not disproportionately fall on some particular neighborhood and is not random. And to do that, you need lots of tools. We have some now that we've used for quite a while, but the land bank is another one of those tools. It provides, in certain circumstances, an opportunity to redirect, in many respects, this change that we need to manage here, so that people have good housing and that the impact on the neighborhoods is positive. And so we're very grateful for the funding. The land bank is a great idea, but it's not magic. Like everything else, it takes money. So until we have some funding in it, we can't really be particularly effective with it. And what you see here is a magnificent opportunity to provide that funding. Brett will talk about the specifics of it here in a minute, but one of the things it does do, and the Attorney General made reference to it, is it fits into a program we have in place already. No grass will grow on this money. We have the ability to deliver this particular activity through the land bank and through existing programs, so we'll have an immediate impact, and we appreciate it very much. One thing that was a little unusual about the land bank program is the role that council played. They always play a role in terms of approving what might be proposed to this or making suggestions, but in this particular case, they really took a lead role. They formed an ad hoc committee. Jackie Ortiz, who's here, Carolee Conklin, who's here, were part of it, and then also Carla Palumbo, who was not able to be here today. All council was active in it, but they formed a little group that actually worked directly with staff and prodded staff to get this idea in place. So they should get an additional shout out today for the fact that this has come to bear. It's come to bear and it's successful. And so with that, it's appropriate that I get a chance to introduce Lovely Warren, President of City Council, who shared in this process that I talked about. Thank you. Lovely.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Richards, and thank you to your administration for putting together such a great application, and they're the reason why we were able to access this funding. I also want to thank the Attorney General for holding out. You know, he led the nation when it came down to dealing with this foreclosure crisis in many of the communities, and had it not been for his leadership and his guidance, we would not be able to access the dollars that we have today. I would also like to thank my colleagues on City Council, led by Councilmember Ortiz, who worked tirelessly to put the land bank together and make sure that we did everything possible on our end to make sure that we revitalize our neighborhoods. But we also have some great partners in the community that deal with housing on a daily basis, and I want to thank them for doing such an excellent job on a daily basis when it comes down to trying to revitalize our most challenged neighborhoods. So I thank you all for coming. I also thank my colleagues, Carolee Conklin and Loretta Scott and Dana Miller, for joining me here today. We appreciate all the support that we have in our community, and we are looking forward to revitalizing our neighborhoods once again. Thank you.
Thank you. And now a very good, and we're getting, as we get on in age, we don't like to say old friend, a longtime friend and colleague and a great leader here and across New York State, Assemblymember Joe Morelle.
Thank you. I am delighted to be here. I had the privilege of supporting the 2011 state legislation which created the state land banks. And I, too, would like to express my gratitude at the way that our collaborations work between the work that the attorneys general did. And I have to say a word about Eric Schneiderman. Not only are we old friends, I'm willing to accept that, and we served together in the state legislature and worked on many projects together. But since his election as Attorney General of the state, Eric and I have had long conversations about what precipitated the housing crisis, what kinds of things could be done by government to provide a reliable framework for regulation. And I could not be more proud of the work that he's done, not only in the state but on a national level, and the leadership that he has provided. We would not be here today without the great work of Eric Schneiderman, so my hat is off to him. I am very proud of the work that he continues to do on this, and he suggests there's more money coming, so I'm even particularly happy about that. In addition to the work that the state has done and the Attorney General has done, it's also gratifying to know that your local community is doing all that needs to make sure that it's taking advantage of the resources that are available. So I want to again congratulate the mayor for his extraordinary leadership and City Council for their work, and of course all the staff at City Hall that work so hard. To be able to repair neighborhoods and to rebuild lives is so vitally important to all of us, and here's a tangible proof that it is getting done. So before I turn it over, I'm not sure who I'm turning this over. Brett Garwood, I think, is who's knows all the details about this and works so hard at putting this together and deserves a lot of credit. But I'd close with a quote from one of my favorite presidents, Teddy Roosevelt, who said, "There are many ways of going forward, but only one way of standing still." And today is a celebration of our commitment to going forward, and I'm honored to be a part of it. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, this is really truly incredible news to help continue our Home Rochester program and utilize our land bank and make sure that our land bank can exercise the powers that the state intended for it. I wanted to start by recognizing a few people that were really important in developing the land bank and this application. Shortly after the state approved the land bank legislation, a kind of an advisory committee was formed, and Gene Lowe has really taken the lead on organizing several organizations and community groups to help describe what we might want to make out of our land bank, and that's been a very important asset. And as president of the board of the land bank, we've asked them to continue on as an advisory group to our land bank. But I'd also like to recognize Kathy Sheets, who's the executive director of Land Bank and the City of Rochester's director of real estate. Her and her staff, Ryan Mitchell and Theo Finn, also from our housing group, helped put together this application, and we're thrilled that it was successful. The Home Rochester program is principally the program that's going to utilize these funds. That program's been long running and has helped to take 600 vacant homes in the city of Rochester, rehab them, and sell them to first-time home buyers. That is a dramatic impact on our neighborhood. This has occurred over the last 10 years or so. And to just think about their impact, I'd like you to imagine what Rochester would be like today with 600 fewer owner-occupants and 600 more vacant homes or likely badly maintained investor-owned properties. We want to continue that effort with this program, and we're fortunate to have these additional resources, but we'll also be leveraging a lot of additional resources of funds. The most important of which is a construction loan pool of $16 million that helps acquire these properties, and that's the funding that will be actually used to rehabilitate these properties. The land bank funding from the Attorney General will help subsidize the cost of these homes to first-time home buyers, and will continue this program along. Rochester has had a very long history of dealing with foreclosure. Our crisis in foreclosure started in the 90s with very high uptick in HUD foreclosures. And we've learned since then that the principal way that we have lost owner occupants and the principal way that we have increased in the number of vacant properties is through the foreclosure process. And it's strange that we see all these vacant homes in the city of Rochester, and the confounding issue right now is our inability to get our hands on those properties so we can actually do something with them. And the land bank legislation really enabled Rochester and other communities to finally get a grip on these properties and do something with it. Our Home Rochester program is going to benefit from that because we're going to try to grab these single-family vacant homes through the tax foreclosure process and rehab them and sell them to first-time home buyers. The impact of this will be great. I was actually talking with the mayor just a couple days ago, and we were actually discussing the progress that's been made in this issue of vacant property. For a city like Rochester, which has suffered from population loss and high vacancy rates for as long as it has, to be able to say that actually the number of vacant properties is going down in the city is a very big accomplishment. But we also hope to get the number of owner occupants up. And we hope that we believe that this funding will help us do that. So thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Are we going to take questions? Matt, you want to?